Welcome back to the First Off in My Opinion podcast.
You know how we do.
Tom Swoop.
What's good, my good people? It's your boy Tom Swoop, and this is the First Off in My Opinion podcast. We are broadcasting in the beautiful Atlanta today at the Plug ATL. I'll jump right into the fire with my first topic for today, okay? And I want you guys to be honest and give me your personal opinion on this topic, all right?
That's all I'm
going to read this for y'all, all right? Has the homosexual agenda and or quest for acceptance and equality superseded the civil rights agenda for people of color? Have they become the most protected class in the United States? That was a long sigh.
Listen, all these
that was a long sigh.
That's heavy.
Well, I'll be more than happy to tackle that first. Absolutely, they have superseded. There has been more acts in Congress. There have been more legislation. There have been more marches. There have been more movements and activity on fighting for the rights for the LGBTQI community and whatever numbers I'm forgetting or letters than anything that could empower the Black community and our needs. So in my opinion, very much so, because we don't see any real movement for the Black community and the people of color. POCs are not seeing the same amount of care and concern, in my opinion.
I gotta agree. And I have like some real life examples I've seen at work where, you know, we've had individuals who represent that group be more protected than people of color. I've seen people that had to get forced out of their positions because of Black men like myself standing up, you know what I mean, to ensure that they're out of there, whereas we weren't protected before we actually stepped up and spoke out. So I gotta agree with, respectfully, I gotta agree.
I mean, strong question off rip.
Cooking with grease.
Yeah, Lee.
On
I thought
how.
we were talking about love. Okay, let's talk about this. I agree that there is more protection for the gay community, but I think the problem why we don't get as much protection with the Black community is we tend to self-sabotage when it comes to help. The gay community, I don't care who can help me, come help me. Mm-hmm. Black people tend to have this, you can only help me if you look like this. You can only help me if you live in this community. You can only help me if you represent me. And the thing with the gay community, if you want to come through, everybody can come through. And I think as a result, they get more attention, they get more help, and people stick with them more for that reason. They don't block any help of anyone.
Now, I don't want anybody to take this as we're bashing their community.
No, absolutely.
We're just making an observation of the direct reflection of our community and where think about it. You turn on TV, any show, you know, it's going to be a gay agenda on that show.
Why is it a gay agenda? That's the part that it's not an agenda, just people are gay.
But what was that, Hollywood as white, something a couple years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And you started seeing more Black people in movies. Mm-hmm. Now that's almost dissipated, but every show has some form of gay characters now.
Because people are being represented. There's also more people that are wearing, hijabs.
And I get the wokeness of it, and that's basically the woke movement. But what I'm saying is that has superseded. Now we're back to shows. We have shows about the future in this country where there still aren't Black people in them.
Oh,
and
please let me say something.
Go ahead.
So I've got to piggyback off of what Yaya said. So when you say that the gay agenda, or the gay community, anybody who wants to come and help can come and help.
Yeah.
And the Black people, our community is, if you don't look like me, you can't help me. Well, it's because all help that has come from people who didn't look like us had strings attached. It had some type of hidden agenda. Yeah, we're going to give you welfare, but put your men out. We helped you though, right? So when you look at what comes attached, what comes along with it, I wouldn't trust it either. Tuskegee experiment. We're going to give y'all these shots, make y'all healthy, but we're not going to tell y'all we're giving y'all syphilis. We don't trust because it's been tied to something that has never been a positive outcome. We're the guinea pigs, we're the experiments, or it's been to intentionally hurt. I don't trust my own either, though. I gotta
get that.
Verify everybody.
But when you block help, you block help. And then it makes it harder for people to reach out to help you. And this is also coming from being a light-skinned woman. Sometimes I'm not Black enough to help. I'm not Black enough to say anything. Also, I've seen when white people do try and step in, I don't want your help, I don't need your help. So what do? They go over to the gay community to help. You have to remember, I understand what you're saying, I'm not negating what you're saying because I see it firsthand because people get real comfortable with me. But sometimes when you block people, you also block people that's willing to help you. You put them all in the same boat.
So you are a tone or two lighter than me, but I got that same light skin privilege, pretty girl privilege. I'm in rooms where they're comfortable with me because, Ashley could never be militant. So I'll sit right in that room and I'll soak up all the information. I'll get all the resources. I'll make all the connects, and I come right on to my blackity black sons and they daddies and my uncles and tell them all the game. That's how I feel you can help, but I don't need your hands directly touching it because then you're too close to where you can sabotage. And I don't want you to be able to build me up just to tear me down. That's me.
But I also feel like, back to what Yaya was saying, even when we do get the help, honestly, we have a knack for it up.
You can't save everybody. Not everybody's going to go. So the ones that have no intentions of improving, they only want the benefit, they don't want the responsibility of the growth, you got to be left behind. Not everybody's going with me. And I don't care that you do look like me. Sometimes I got to leave you behind because you dead weight. If I can take 10, but I got to leave 2, I'm taking 10.
Okay, so what is the accountability of the gay community? We marched with black people at one point, but then we got our rights basically now. What's their accountability to circle back on us?
They should, because we're in their numbers. You can be gay and be white, black, Asian, Native American, Hispanic, but if you black, you black. There is no variance of that. So I do feel like they get the double minority, sometimes the triple minority, because you can be a gay black woman and then you got everything checked. We do need to help each other to a certain extent. But for me, we got to help ourselves first too. You can get all the help and all the resources, but if you're not willing to do the work and apply the practices moving forward, that's a waste of time, in my opinion.
When we say help, what do we specifically? Give me an example.
I would say, let's say if something happened nationally to a person, we could take the Brittany Griner situation. She had people of color supporting her, a huge, gay community support. You know what I'm saying? Like she got all of that. Like they was in the White House like, Joe, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Whereas if Brittany Griner would just been like you, I don't think that would have happened.
Oh, yeah, that's
but her as a celebrity or her as just her?
I think her as a celebrity. I think Brittany Griner is home because she's gay.
Well, yeah, she represents the duality though, a black gay woman. So I guess to Yaya's original point that if they band together more, so she represents both, they band together more. But also we got, in my opinion, we got to remember that the rise of their community has kind of just, what we talking, the last decade or so? Like where they were able to have some representation, you know what I mean? So that here, anything that happens, in the very near future, it's going to be, they band together a lot faster because they spent so much time not having a voice at all. At least we can say we've had a voice, whether people were listening or not. Right. We've been in the entertainment world. We've been making a splash in Black Hollywood, regardless of how we feel about where it stands right now. We did have a little bit of a head start in terms of the social media aspect and reaching more people. So I feel like, when you have representation that has kind of like presented itself as an option, it seems like, again, in the case of Brittany Griner, as the most recent observation we have, that makes sense to me.
But I don't think our representation has ever been because people care. I think they allow it and they entertain it because it's monetized and somebody's getting a check from it.
And that, you beat me to it. Remember, gay people have money. They have a strong lockhold on money, and money talks in America.
And quiet money. And they got behind the scenes quiet money that don't mind cutting a check, but just keep me out of it.
And I also know that in order to get in power, sometimes they can tone down or act, in lack of a better term, less gay to get into doors. And then I can represent my community. And I know that black people don't have that privilege.
We don't have that option.
I can't turn off my blackness.
I can't turn off my blackness. And I get that. But you can't take away, when they go strong, they go strong. They will shut a building down because once they have that one unity, we are gay and we have this flag together. And then in the black community, we have light skin, dark skin. We have poor, we have rich. We have educated, uneducated.
Black niggas.
We got
color.
There's so much separation.
Yeah.
And then, that makes it hard for us to get things because we're not even together on the same.
But full transparency, the gay community has it as well.
They do have it.
So they are able to overlook. They don't care about those variants. The ultimate goal and agenda is to get the gay community as a whole for what, to what they need. But for us, we can't see past the fact that VZ gonna have more than Ashley, so I can't help him.
Correct.
But if we all get it together, collectively, our numbers empower our community in whole. And that's the most frustrating thing for me.
All right, let's pivot real quick. Next topic. All right.
Heavy.
Just
Do
leave
you
it.
call him first? That's
Get in your bag, young man. Get in your bag. All right. How much damage has the black church done in our community?
1000%. It's a huge majority the black church fault why we are where we are.
Now, with that being said, the black church got us to a certain point in history. The unity,
True.
the civil rights movement, the slain, church leaders that actually led to basically what we have now. But it seemed like at one point, it just all stopped.
The moment that the government allowed churches to become nonprofits and then 503Cs allowed it to be a business to put money in the preacher's pocket, he had no more responsibility for uplifting the community. I'm uplifting my pockets and my paycheck. In my opinion, that's what happened. Because now you aren't benefiting from your community doing well. You benefit the most by your 503C nonprofit getting a check and you being able to put that money in your pocket. You cut the middleman out. You cut us out,
Right.
and went on about your way.
Right.
My grandfather was a pastor. And I remember, and this is in the South, Commonwealth of Virginia. I know what his life was all about. I know it wasn't about any money. You know what I mean? I witnessed it. But then fast forward as an adult, to Ashley's point, it's very hard to decipher who's who. Because you see the Bentleys, and then there's a lot of prosperity preaching, which again,
I'm not upset about that.
Absolutely. I feel like we all should be prosperous.
Right.
But what happens is there's an energy that I feel when I'm sitting in that congregation that it doesn't sit well with me more often than not when I've been in most of these buildings. Sometimes it makes me feel like, how does it affect people's faith, like their actual walk?
Some people literally believe that if their pastor or minister is prosperous and they're connected to those blessings as well. So they're giving of themselves, they're tithing to the church because they feel like they are connected to the ultimate outcome of the whole building. And if my pastor's successful, my pastor is blessed, I'm connected to his blessings.
Faith without works
making
is
people
dead.
weak, and it's making them inferior, and it's keeping people dependent on hope versus reality. Not being a person that grew up in the church, periodically I would go to church, and some of the poorest people that I know, some of the most unsuccessful people that I know, go to church on a regular basis. The ones that it keeps people just weak. And it's very hard for me to understand how people hold on to, especially Christianity or religion, that actually was used to enslave and keep slavery going. And to think that the religion of today would be different from the one that kept people enslaved is confusing to me. It's the same religion. Even when we were going through the civil rights, Martin Luther King was still killed like everybody else. He was walking with the Lord and he was still killed like everybody else. And it's one of those things. Now religion is used against us because one of the big things that Trump did was he went to go get a bunch of pastors, a bunch of cricket pastors, and he tried to pull them in to try and use religion against us. It just doesn't serve the purpose that it once did. It used to be a safe haven. It used to be a group that we could go to.
Because they were the leaders, though.
It was the leaders because
they're not leaders anymore.
It's not even just the leaders. It was a sense of hope.
Well,
Church was a sense of hope.
It was also because
of survival.
Church and your religion was in addition to your work. Faith without works is dead. Now, you talking to not a pastor's kid, but I was in church for youth Bible study, acolyte practice, dance team, choir. I was born and raised in a church. You used your religion as the support and the encouragement to go on Monday through Friday to do your work. People want to now, they're sheep thinkers. My pastor says do this, do this. They don't question. They don't do their own research. They are literally waiting for this prayer to just materialize, but you're not doing any work. So for me, it makes us lazy. It gives us an escape and an excuse to not have the responsibility to get up and do the work. You can't be praying for God to pay your bills and you ain't went to work in 3 months, sir. I don't understand. And even in the word, it says a man who doesn't work doesn't eat. I think it should say people who don't work don't eat.
You got a gambling habit, you got a spending habit, but yet you pray to God to bring you the rent money. Stop spending your money.
Stop spending your money. Take some accountability and some responsibility. I feel like the church and religion has relinquished us from that, because it's a good idea for me to keep you thinking that as long as you come to church and pay your tithes,
Exactly.
you'll be fine. And people are blindly following that, not realizing they're the product of their own doing. Stop spending your money.
So you saying the monetization of hope, possible hope and relief, is dominated basically the church narrative.
Absolutely. Because even the church preached that a man work was his pride. A man's work with his hands with his pride. I'm a heathen, so I'm paraphrasing. But people don't understand that hope was in addition to work. It was in addition to dedication and commitment. You look back in Malcolm X's time, in the Civil Rights Movement time, they were going to work. They were saving their money. They were starting businesses. They were pouring back into their community. And then when life got tough, they would go back to church, get a good word, get refreshed for the week, and do it all over again. Now they're skipping over the week's work. And I'll just go to church and pray, and I'll feel better.
So I want to ask you this. Now, this is me not growing up in church. So when I always looked at church, I looked at it as a way to, like you said, get you through the week, but also to get you through life so that you can get to heaven.
Yeah.
But even in that sense, it didn't tell you how to make your time on earth better and more profitable.
It does.
Okay.
Depending on where you go.
It's like you can go through suffering now, have all the pain now so that you can get to heaven. But let's talk about now.
But it depends on, it really, that's where it's like what VZ was saying, like, you know, different churches, different organizations, how they're ran, how they're set up, how they, you know, execute their vision or whatever is totally different. Like I've been to churches that were like mega churches, and I've been to churches that are like 2 seconds big. What you find is it doesn't matter about the building, it matters about the people running it. And that's where you're gonna find a leader or a leader.
Yeah.
It's
You know what I'm saying? So
it's heavily relative to the aura of the leadership of that church. I break it down to its simplest level. Like, these are great orators. You know what I mean? Like, so for a lot of the people, especially like our generation, like we're not talking about our parents, we're talking about like us. And people are clamoring for this leadership. So that's why when you look at the church right now, you have so many women, overwhelmingly, a lot of single women, a lot of women who are in there holding on to this hope. It's almost like a TED Talk every single Sunday that they can now take into the week, once again, feel inspired. And they're leaning on that inspiration that they get from pastor. That's why they dig into their pockets as deep as they did.
They don't want to listen to no man, because they could have a man in their household leading. This
They
really going to
could.
do the work. But they don't want to listen to no man.
They look to
want
that
somebody
man.
to pacify them and say, it's okay, sister, you doing the best you can. Give me your tithes and go on knowing that you did what you're supposed to do.
Did you see that clip of the woman who called her husband into the pastor's office because he wasn't paying his tithes? Like, he put $100 in the bucket or something and wants some change back. And they like, we don't give change back at the church. So they called him into the pastor's office, and his wife was sitting in the corner. This is his wife. Husband, you need to pay your tithes.
Brainwashed.
That's true.
And they were like, sir, you need to pay. And he's like, I don't want to give you all my money. That's all the money that I have.
Brainwashed.
And his wife was just sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
No, you need to do what the pastor and them say.
There's so many levels of wrong.
Absolutely.
Are you kidding me?
Because you're going to go home with your husband.
That's
that
right.
pastor is going to take his $100 and go home with his wife and live good. No, you can't tell me that, you can't pee in the wind and tell me it's raining. I can use my common sense to know that I know God gave me a word to follow. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. When you talk about God, the word says you're supposed to suffer now so you can enjoy later. My God say I can have all the desires of my heart, and I'm going to work to get the desires of my heart. And the devil's whole job is to block that. We want her miserable. We want her life hard. And that's where church comes in to help me fight that. But you also can't use any of that narrative to make Ashley think, I need you to pay all your money to the church and go suffer while I live good. No, I know better. I'm not going to do that. And if I want change for my 100, I'm going to get change before I go to church.